Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here, and this video is brought to you through the EA Game Changers program. We had our virtual Sims camp once again, and I managed to have access to the Sims 4 Cottage Living, the cottagecore fantasy of your dreams for The Sims 4 is almost here, and this video is going to be talking you through all of the gameplay, what you can do, what you can't do. I'm not going to be talking too much about how I feel about things in this video. It's more of like an overview of everything that you can get up to and the content included, just so you can get an idea of whether this pack is personally for you or not. So we have raise or befriend animals. Chickens and cows can provide Sims with eggs and milk. Llamas provide wool for crafts, just don't get spit on. Wild birds share their sweet songs, and rabbits will freely roam, but keep an eye out for mischievous foxes. Live off the land, where the Sims grow their own produce, forage in the wild, or visit the village market. Fresh is best. Up for a challenge? Try growing oversized crops to enter into the competition at the Finchwick Fair. Embrace the countryside. Henford on Bagley is nestled in the cozy countryside where everyone knows everyone. Pack for a lovely picnic or lose yourself in a cross-stitch session. Get to know the locals at the Gnome's Arms pub and learn about the town from your neighbours. Yes, there was a grammatical error in that sentence. Please do keep in mind, because this is early access, things are very likely to change. This was an early build. Not everything that is in here is fully confirmed, and the team are still working on it up until release. Just a little disclaimer. Enjoy the simple living. Benefit from higher quality food whilst using the new Simple Living Lot Challenge. This new lot challenge will require your Sims to cook with fresh ingredients for each meal. Will your Sims be up to the challenge? This is something that I've wanted in Sims 4 for such a long time. And of course, we're going to start off with Create a Sim and talk about the two new traits that we're getting and the brand new aspiration. The new aspiration, not surprisingly, is listed under nature, and it is the country caretaker. Country caretakers want to tend to the countryside and befriend all animals and critters. As usual, there's 4 levels to this aspiration. It is sort of a walkthrough of this pack. There is a little bit of work needed to get it done, but I completed it in like 1 Sims week, but I was only playing with this pack. What I mean by a walkthrough sort of aspiration is it sort of just steers you through this new expansion. I did say on Twitter a few weeks ago, before I'd even got my hands on this and played with this pack, that I would love to see it like challenge the number of animals that we own, like the amount of generations that we go through of chickens, how much we earn off farming. There isn't actually much of that. However, you do have to like befriend animals. You have to befriend wild animals, so you have to work on your gifting system with the rabbits and the birds. It also kind of just gets you out exploring the world, so you have to forage for 5 items from one of the neighborhoods, and you also have to win a competition in Henford on Bagley Finchwick's Fair, which is pretty easy if you know how to do it. I actually straight up lied to you all. It took me 2 Sims week to actually complete this aspiration because I had to wait for the second competition to absolutely girl boss it and win my second competition ever, which I think was pretty great. But once you actually complete the aspiration, you get the bonus trait of Nature Conservationalist. Animals and plants can be finicky. They require love, attention, patience, and sometimes even simoleons. Freddy has proven he is the ultimate country caretaker. Nature Conservationalists. Whoa! It's very similar. It sounds very similar to eco lifestyle and also island living. Sims have improved relationships with animals, allowing their animals to live longer, happier lives. Rabbits and birds birds will bring them more gifts. So using the gifting system before you get this bonus trait, you only get one gift from the animals at a time. And then once I got this, I started getting like 2 every single time. And they can interact with plants in unique ways, receiving more yield from harvests. They will also receive free grocery delivery, and when residing in Henford on Bagley, a discount on their bills, which I think are pretty good rewards, like, especially for an aspiration that doesn't take too much effort, because relationships are pretty easy to build, especially if you have the animal enthusiast trait. I mean, the rewards are pretty good if you do have a farming sim. And then for the 2 new traits, we have animal enthusiast, which is very similar to the cats and dogs traits. So these sims are obsessed with animals and will seek their company often. They will have an easier time caring for animals and getting closer to them. So builds relationships faster. Also has a couple of different interactions where you can like smother an animal with love. And then you have lactose intolerant. These sims will become sick if they eat dairy, but will feel great if they have avoided it for a while. I actually had my lactose intolerant sim eat dairy and they got an uncomfortable moodlet. They kept farting. They never actually threw up from it. I don't know if they're supposed to, but mine never did personally. He just kept farting. And both of these traits are also available for kids as well, which I always love to see. I love it when kids get more of a choice. They're not really like personality defining traits. They're cutesy for what this pack is, but I wasn't really expecting too much for the traits. So I moved my sims into the lot up near the waterfalls. I didn't change too much about it. What you see is pretty much what it looks like, apart from like the bedroom, but the animal area is exactly the same. So to actually go about purchasing your first animals, which I'm sure is what we all want to do as soon as we get our hands on this pack, you just actually click on the, I want to call it the animal cottage. I know it's a shed, but it looks like a cottage. And in the animal shed, you can choose to have a llama, or you can choose to have a cow. You can choose from a brown or black cow and a beige or a white llama. I went for the beige llama first of all, and then you can refill the food in the animal shed. You can choose to clean it. If you hover over either the llama or the shed, it tells you its current conditions, like how hungry it is, whether the food in the shed is full or not, whether you have to clean it. Your animals can get dirty. They'll have like dust on them, so you just have to like brush them. You can choose to socialize. You can choose to give them treats. You can clean your llamas. You can feed them. You can dress them, and you can also name them, but you can also trade them as well. So if you go to actions, you can trade them for meat. I didn't want it to be all rosy, to be perfectly honest. And you can also just trade them in for like treats or produce. Anything that you feel like your farmer needs more of, you can trade your animals in. You can also get a little bit of money back for them. You can't train them or anything like that. They are their own being. I know a few of you were asking how big the sheds and the coops are. So the shed is actually 10 by 9 on the grid, and the chicken coop is actually 4 by 3. So animal treats, you can discover these by doing errands for the locals, for finding them in the shops. You will find out more about them in your Sims notebook and the effects that they can have on chickens, cows, and llamas. Basically, different treats mean different things. So your animal can give you different produce from the treats that you use. So for example, if you decide to give a spicy treat to your llama, they will have red wool. If you give it to your cow, they'll give you fiery milk. And if you give them to chickens, you get obsidian eggs. And every different treat has a sort of different value on the animals. You can actually milk and shear your llamas every day. I did find that a little bit too easy. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wish that there was like more of a cooldown period between how often you could get produce from your animals. The hens lay eggs every day as long as you have a pair. If you have a rooster and a hen, they'll just lay an egg. Not all of them are hatchable, and obviously it depends on the treats that you feed them of what type of egg it is. Cows and llamas, it's like 1 to 2 days. I tried to pay attention to how often they were giving me wool and milk, and it was pretty frequently. Llamas give you wool, which can actually discount your cross-stitching and also knitting if you have nifty knitting. You can also use that to get different clothes from the animal creature keeper in the town. They can also spit on foxes to reduce the chances of your foxes attacking or stealing your eggs. I really love the animation of llamas. I will say they seem to be a little bit more useless than cows do, because like cows you can actually make stuff with the stuff that they give you, whereas llamas just like offset your wool costs, which if you're not using cross-stitching a lot and it is only a level 5 skill, you're probably not going to get a lot of use out of llamas. Cows obviously give you milk. This milk can be used in recipes, or you can just drink it and it can give you moodlets, and you can also use it for errands for the town folks. And then chickens obviously give you eggs. These can be used in recipes once again, or different errands. You can also fight chickens. That is the new death. I tried to do it. I figured that if my sim was dazed from a fight, then the chances would be higher of them being killed. I unfortunately could not get my sim to die by a chicken fight, which was very unfortunate for this video, but that is actually the new death. And you also get notifications for your chickens. So you get notifications whenever your sim goes to collect eggs. It will tell you what type of egg it is, whether it's a special egg or whether it's a hatchable egg. Special eggs are sometimes used in some recipes. However, if you get a hatchable one, you can actually drag this back on over to your coop. As long as your coop isn't full, I would just suggest getting a cockerel and a hen, just like one of each, because then you can fill it up with your actual chicks, and the chicks are adorable. They're so stinking cute. You can drag it back over and a hen will actually go and sit on the egg, which is very cute. It like incubates it, which I think is adorable. I love the little animations that have gone into this. And then your sim will get a notification when the egg is ready to hatch, and you actually have to hatch it yourself. I had my little kid sim do it. Kids can actually help on the farm a lot. I don't know if they can share the llama. I'm assuming no, from what I can remember, but they can actually milk the cows. They can also clean out the coops and the sheds. They can give food to the animals. They can socialize with them. So kids can pretty much like look after the farm, which I really, really like. I can't believe we got like working burglar foxes before we got actual burglars in the game, but foxes are actually part of the lot challenges. But if you have that challenge on, foxes will randomly spawn on your lot, and they can actually sneak into your coops. They can actually attack and kill your hens. So keep an eye on them if you don't want a fox around. They usually run off if they see your sim, or if you actually install a fox alarm on your coop, which is actually an upgrade available. Also, if you decide to build your relationship up with the fox, you can like plead to them to leave your animals alone. Rabbits are a bit more fun than foxes for me personally, because you can actually buy their homes. So if you build up a high enough relationship with a rabbit, their home, which is like a little tree stump, actually unlocks in your catalog. You can just place that down on your lot and that rabbit will actually stay in its little hidey hole. And you can also ask the rabbits to help in your garden. They will help with weeding if you have a high enough relationship, which I think is very, very cute. There's also the gifting system with birds and rabbits. Basically, you can discover their gift preferences each of those animals will love one specific gift, and then they'll like a few and dislike some others. And basically, if you give them a gift that they like, it raises your relationship more. If they don't like it, it will decrease the relationship. And they also have the chance of pretty much gifting you like every 1 or 2 days. They can gift you with different produce. Birds are pretty much the same concept as rabbits. Once you build up your relationship enough with a set of birds, you can actually place their log down on your home. However, they don't randomly spawn on your lot. You are going to have to go out into the world to find their little trees that they spawn in. You can interact with the trees and build up your relationship that way just by socializing. You can also name the flock. You can name your rabbits. You can give your rabbits clothing if you want to. You can give clothing to all of the animals, chickens, llamas, and cows included. And if you have a high enough relationship with the birds, just like the rabbits, you can enable them to help with gardening, but instead of weeding, they'll actually help you catch all the bugs. When it comes to planting your oversized crops, you can actually buy a garden patch. It's a 2x2 item in the catalog. It just looks like a mound of dirt, really. And if you click on that, you can actually purchase oversized crops. I'm fairly sure you can also purchase them online as well, or through your Sim's phone. And you need the patches to be able to plant the oversized crops. You can't just grow them in any ground like you usually can with gardening. And the way these oversized crops work, it can be very random. I did find that using fertilizer every single day, like as soon as the fertilizer runs out, if you buy some more and then fertilize every day, you will have a higher chance of getting the biggest oversized crops that you can get. At least that's what I found. So if your crops actually stay in like 4 different corners, that means you have small oversized crops, which those 2 things should cancel each other out, but they don't, weirdly. So they'll basically just be like regular lettuce, aubergines, pumpkins. If they go into 2 different plants, that means you have medium oversized crops. So not the biggest that you can possibly get, but you know, you're doing pretty well for yourself. And then if they actually spawn into 1 big crop in the center of your dirt patch, that means you have the biggest oversized crop possible. You will know it because once you actually go to harvest them, they'll be huge. If you do want to keep your oversized crops in the ground, you actually can. I did this for about like 4 Sims days and it didn't have any effect on the quality, which was quite nice because I wanted to keep them in the ground because I had an oversized crop competition coming up and I was like, I don't want to remove these and have the chance of them going off like whilst being in my fridge, but they do take a while to go off. Having said that, do be aware that stuff can go off even in your fridge. So milk goes off, oversized crops go off, eggs and meat also go off. Those patches aren't only used for oversized crops though. You can just plant like any produce that you are used to having in the game, like regular fruits, vegetables, flowers. You can plant them in those. They work like planters basically. So you can have 4 normal plants in there. And there is actually some new Harvestables in this pack. There are blueberries, there's raspberries, there's choco berries, and then there are lovely mushrooms, nightly mushrooms, verdant mushrooms, spicy mushrooms, mysterious mushrooms, and I didn't actually see the last one, but I'm fairly sure it was charming. You can actually find mushrooms in the Bramblewood area. I would say the ruins is your best chance, but also on the like zigzag path up the waterfall, there's a bunch of mushrooms that you can harvest there. They're the only few that I really saw around. I will say, I think foraging was a little bit lackluster. I was kind of hoping that your sim would like take the picnic basket with them and there would be a special animation, but it's pretty much just like gardening. Like your sim just swipes and it finds the mushrooms. So technically, I don't know how they're selling this as like foraging, when in reality, it's just sort of like picking any plant that you see in the world. It's definitely nothing new to the game. When it comes to gardening, this is actually a base game update, but kids can actually help to garden. This is something that I've wanted to see forever. I feel like it should have been in Eco Lifestyle and it wasn't, but it's now in this pack instead. I only had to wait an extra year. Kids can't mess with chemicals, so they actually can't fertilize and they also can't spray for bugs. However, they can water and weed from the get-go, and then once their mental skill, which gardening actually helps get up their mental skill, they can actually plant and harvest by themselves. The recipes, there's a few new ones. Obviously, this pack is English inspired, so you have stuff like beef Wellington, you have stews, you have Yorkshire puddings, which the Yorkshire puddings are literally just like a Yorkshire pudding on a plate by itself, which I find hilarious because I do know people who eat Yorkshire puddings like just by themselves. It just made me giggle when I saw it. You can also make crumpets as well, which is quite cute. And there are actually some updates to older recipes. They've made some of them lactose free. Obviously, if you have lactose intolerant Sims, they can now obviously eat the lactose free stuff. So they've sort of updated it with not using milk. You can use plant milk instead, which you just have to buy. I don't think you can milk plants, which I really wish that was the case, because it seems weird that you can get animal milk, but not actually plant milk for your lactose intolerant Sims. Obviously, your Sims can now cook together, so it can be sort of a group activity. I will say this was a little bit buggy. Make sure you have enough like kitchen counters for everyone, and if your Sims do bug out or if there's like routing issues, there seems to be like a little bit of simulation lag. So like my adult could be cooking and then my child Sim will start helping like halfway through, and then they're like finished and the child Sim would have only just begun. So I will say make sure you have enough kitchen counter space, and if you do run into any of those issues, you can as a child click on the kitchen counter if you have already started group cooking, and you can have your child help out. They'll pull out their own little stool, which is kind of adorable. Also, this helps with the kids' mental skill again, which I find weird. I thought it would help with their creativity. Canning! One of the things that I've wanted to see in The Sims 4 for ages. This is just part of the cooking skill. There isn't like a new skill for it, and there also isn't like its own activity bench, which I kind of wish there was the option to have it as its own activity bench as well as just being on the oven. But I mean, it's not the biggest deal breaker for me. This actually goes up to level 6. So if you have a cooking skill past level 6, it means you've actually achieved all the canning that you can. And basically here you can make like chocolate syrup, you can make custard, mayonnaise, raspberry jams, all different sorts of jams and things like that. These can be used as ingredients for specific recipes, especially if you have the lot challenge, which is simple living, which you basically have to have all the ingredients for to be able to make anything. Or you can just eat them by yourselves if you're that type of person. Like your Sim can literally just eat a jar of mayonnaise. Speaking of children's skills, they can actually cross-stitch as well as teens and above. They do actually have their own separate skill for it, kind of like knitting. It is only a level 5 skill and it does take a while, I have to say. It definitely felt like it took longer than knitting. Even creating like one cross stitch takes like a few sim hours, which I'm not complaining about. I definitely think knitting went up far too quickly. But basically what you can can create the basics at first, then you will get upgraded to like phrases, mascots, food, animals, and then once you reach level 5, you can actually cross-stitch from reference, which is very much like painting from reference. There's also some unlockable patterns that you don't get just through leveling up, but through the gifting system, and also by doing errands for townies. So you can also unlock random stuff by doing those activities. I know I've mentioned them loads, but I haven't actually talked about them in detail, but errands. Your Sims can do errands for specific townies. If you go to the board in like the town square, it tells you the specific like they're sort of NPCs, but they play a bigger role. So you can go up to these Sims and ask them if there's any errands you can run for them. You actually get paid for these. They're a little bit like the odd jobs that we got in Island Living, but they're way more active. Your Sim actually has to do stuff. You have to do stuff as a player. You do get paid for them, and then there's also extras. Again, they can give you treats, cross-stitch patterns. You can get rewards. When you hover over an errand, it will tell you what rewards you get for it. These actually can be pretty challenging. Some of them you could definitely do in like a sim day. Some of them actually take a little while because they'll like need specific produce, specific crops. You'll actually have to wait for the seeds to grow and then harvest them all. And yeah, I actually really like this as a system. It definitely is a head nod, I feel like, to like farming sims. So for example, Stardew Valley. It also adds a little bit of lore. Their personality comes out a lot throughout like the storytelling. And I, for example, did one with the mayor, and the mayor is actually the guardian of the grocery delivery dude who is a teenager, and basically there's a little story going on behind the scenes. The notifications will kind of walk you through it, and you sort of have to patch up their relationship, which is really nice. I don't want to give too much away, but it definitely brings out those Sims personalities, which is really nice to see. I also didn't find them very repetitive, I have to say. I quite enjoyed doing them. I will say I would have still liked if we had like a traditional career in this pack, even if it was like a hands-off one, like I've said, but I would have really liked a post officer, postal worker. We don't call them postal workers in the UK. I usually just call it the post person, but I would have loved to see that, or like a milk person, like going to deliver milk in the early mornings. Even if it was just like a part-time job like Island Living, it just doesn't feel as if there's much to do other than like caring for your animals or your crops. For the competitions, they actually happen every Saturday at 3:30 in the afternoon in the town square. I would definitely make sure you check your calendar, see what's coming up. If you hover or click on the actual like competition, it will tell you what you need to prepare. So for the gardening one, you actually need your like rarest and best crop. It can be any crop, not an oversized one, but like just a regular one. I took a dragon fruit and managed to win because it was pretty hella rare. But then there's also pies going on at the same time. So if you want double the chance of winning, I would make a pie as well. Make sure you check the quality on it though. I took an excellent pie and won once again. Then you also have the chicken competition, which also is an egg competition, llama and wool, cow and milk, and then oversized crops and pie. If you want to enter one of your animals, make sure they are in your inventory before you leave, and then once the fair actually closes, everything despawns. The animal will go back into your household inventory, so you can just plop them back into their coop or shed afterwards. I will say these were a bit naff. There's nothing really else to do. I definitely would have liked it to be a bit more fun. There's not even like anywhere that your Sims can like eat. Yes, I did spawn into the pub, so like technically my Sims could have gone to eat at the pub, but I would have expected it to be a bit more like a San Myshuno festival, and it wasn't. I can definitely see these getting boring very quickly. I definitely don't think there's a lot of replayability in them. Like once you've won them once, that's really it. And then just for random miscellaneous stuff, the new woohoo is actually in the animal shed. You can get down and dirty in the hay. It basically works like the wardrobe woohoo. Your Sims like kiss against the door and then just like sneak inside, and then there's fireworks and stuff. Pretty self-explanatory. In Bramblewood, if you actually head to the ruins and then go across the bridge, you can find the creature keeper. He, again, you can do errands for him, or you can also like trade stuff with him for specific berries. You can also ask him to create clothes and buy clothes for your animals from him. Agnes, she won't unfortunately hit your sim if you just flirt with anyone, which is very disappointing in my eyes. I definitely would have loved to see her just come and hit you for being flirty, which is what she usually did in the old games. You actually have to flirt with her. She definitely isn't as iconic as she once used to be. You can actually window shop at the clothes shop. You can window shop everywhere, but the clothes shop actually allows you to plan your outfits. However, I also think I would have loved to see it in the bakery as well, because like we do have some bakery items, especially if you have Get to Work and we have like milk bread. So it felt a little bit weird that you can only like officially purchase stuff at one shop, but hey, it's a step in the right direction. The town definitely feels more alive than the town square in Mount Komorebi, that's for sure. And then there is also grocery and food delivery. So grocery is from the shop. There is an NPC sim that comes along with that. It's always the same teenager, so you can start to build like a relationship and a story with that teen. They are one of the NPCs that you can ask to do errands for. You can also tip them, which is really, really sweet. And then there's Zoomer's delivery, which Zoomers, rather than purchasing groceries, you can actually purchase like actual food there. So if you do have the Simple Living lot challenge and you are struggling, you don't really have any food that you can make, you can actually just order in, which is what I did for the first few nights of my playthrough, because I didn't have a cow, so I couldn't even make like cheese or anything, which is why I think the llama is pretty basic. I genuinely did not think this video was going to be this long. I have to say, whilst I was playing through this pack, I did feel like I was getting through everything very quickly. However, it is very chaotic. I feel like there's so much going on because you definitely feel that like grind of being a farmer, but I didn't feel like I'd have enough stuff to talk about, which usually makes me think like, is there enough stuff in this pack? But I'm gonna sit on those thoughts, I think, and I basically want to do like a should Cottage Living be an expansion pack, which is sort of where I give my personal opinion and reviews a bit more. I just want to sit on it a little bit just to know how I actually do feel about this pack. I like what's in it. Do I think it's big enough? Probably not, but I do feel like it expands the game more than a lot of others recently because not everything is tied to this world. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. I hope there wasn't too much information, but I also hope I covered like most of the stuff that I needed to cover. If you do have any questions, if you felt like you were missing any information or I didn't particularly talk about one thing that you really wanted me to talk about, absolutely let me know down in the comments. Leave your comments down below. I will try and get back to as many of you as I possibly can. And then tomorrow I'm also gonna have my creator sim, and then I'll probably have other sporadic videos throughout the week. Thank you all so much. Once again, big thank you to the Game Changers program for providing me with early access to this pack. I appreciate you all so much, and I will speak to you all in the next one. Bye now. Stay safe, you little chickens.